Hello there guys, welcome to one of my live videos, and on this video this afternoon there is lots to negotiate about. So like I did mention towards the back end of my last video, I am going to be giving you, Man United's 5 overrated players in recent history. Of course, we have recruited a hell of a lot of players in since the Alex Ferguson era. I think we've recruited over 30 odd players in since the Alex Ferguson era. But yes, I am going to give you, 5 of Man United's overrated players, well, in my opinion. So, let's delve into it now. So, I think one of the players that are overrated at Manchester United is definitely Paul Pogba. He's definitely, one of the players that is overrated. Now, obviously, Paul Pogba, rejoined the club from Juventus back in 2016. Of course, we paid £89 million for Pogba. He is our most expensive signing at the moment. Now, but I think analysing the vast majority of his performances, since he rejoined from Juventus back in 2016, they've been totally comparison to his ones in Turin. Because like I mentioned before, reiterating what I said, Paul Pogba did enjoy 4 good years in Turin with Juventus. I think the best we've seen of Paul Pogba, since he rejoined, was in that 3-month period when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager. And I've got to say, Paul Pogba is very, very good for France and that. And he's played well at Manchester United and that, but I think he's also had quite a few injury problems, and that's really had a bad effect on Paul Pogba. Prime example this season, Pogba's only managed 8 appearances this season for the football club due to his injuries. Now, don't forget, Paul Pogba recently, given an interview to the United podcast, and he said, quite a few interesting stuff. He was talking about, the issues that he's had with injuries this season. He was also talking about, his mother always telling him, that he would return to Manchester United, because obviously, don't forget, Paul Pogba left Manchester United in 2012 to join Juventus on a free transfer. The main explanation why he left in 2012 is due to limited appearances, because we did have Paul Pogba under Sir Alex Ferguson and that. But he never really, got many opportunities. He never really, got many opportunities and stuff like that. But yeah, and he was also, he recently, responded to the criticism, that he has received from Graham Souness, because, analysing it, Graham Souness has persistently, been criticising Paul Pogba, and, Paul Pogba, managed to ignore it for a while, but like I updated you last week, Paul Pogba has responded, well, he did respond to the criticism that he has received from Graham Souness. Paul Pogba basically said that he doesn't recognise Graham Souness, he never knew who he basically was and stuff like that. Also too, Paul Pogba revealed that he was an Arsenal fan when he was a lot younger. Also too, Alan Shearer has come out and he's, give his verdict on Paul Pogba, and he actually, believes that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has made a decision on Paul Pogba's future. Now, I think Alan Shearer does believe that Paul Pogba will leave Manchester United when the transfer window does reopen. So this, what he does believe. Robbie Fowler has actually, instructed Paul Pogba, to watch Graham Souness from 1984, I think, when he was at Liverpool, to know a bit more about Graham Souness. But, I think actually, Paul Pogba could be staying at Manchester United, because don't forget, the La Liga expert, I can't pronounce his name, but he recently came out and said that Paul Pogba is expected to sign a new contract at Manchester United. He's expected to sign a new long-term contract at Man United and, become the club's new leader. As it stands at the moment, Pogba's got 2 years remaining on his contract, 1 year. The club do have an option to extend it by a further year. Do you think Man United will trigger that 1 year extension on his contract? I think we have been in negotiations over getting him a new contract, but actually, the Daily Express reported today that if Paul Pogba was to leave Man United, then, we could let him go for as little as £50 million. And that figure is £39 million less, than what we paid for him from Juventus back in 2016. But if Paul Pogba does leave the football club, I think his first choice is Juventus. I think, he would be open to make a return to Juventus. If he doesn't go to Juventus, I think he'll go to Real Madrid. Of course, Real Madrid have been relentlessly linked with Paul Pogba. Don't forget, back in the summer, last summer, Real Madrid were relentlessly linked to him. His actual preference was to make a move to Real Madrid last summer, because Paul Pogba, I still believe, wants to leave the football club, so he's got the same perception than what he had last summer. because last summer he said he was seeking for a new challenge, and he publicly admitted that he wanted to leave the football club. But, we said we wanted £180 million for Paul Pogba, so we was basically, demanding just over double than what we paid for him from Juventus. But Real Madrid were not willing to meet our £180 million asking price. And I think we've said if we do sell him, when the transfer window reopens, we want at least £100 million for the player. But maybe we won't get that due to this coronavirus pandemic, because, like I mentioned, a lot of clubs are under financial pressure, due to this pandemic. And I think top flight clubs, especially Premier League clubs, could lose over £1 billion in revenues and stuff like that. But so Paul Pogba, could remain at the football club. Now, revert back, to when, before the football season was suspended. Of course, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was coming out saying that Pogba will remain at Manchester United next season. Then basically, Solskjaer was reiterating what Paul Pogba had said just before that, because Pogba said, this was prior to the last game, he said he was interested in staying at Man United and he was interested in extending his contract. And he gave one of the main explanations then why he said he wanted to stay is because he believes he can form a good partnership with Bruno Fernandes. And I think, they do very, very well together in our midfield. But the question is, can Pogba and Bruno Fernandes play together in our midfield? Bruno Fernandes, by the way, has recently come out and defended Paul Pogba. He's recently come out and defended Paul Pogba and that. But there is still uncertainty over his future, and obviously, Pogba's agent, Mini Raiola, has been talking a lot since the turn of the year. Obviously, he said, don't forget earlier on this year that he wants to take a great footballer to Real Madrid like Paul Pogba. Mini Raiola, of course, has got a good relation with Real Madrid, and I think Pogba's got a good relationship with Zinedine Zidane and stuff like that. So he's held negotiations with Madrid. He's also held negotiations with Juventus. Ed Woodward's had quite a few talks, with Mini Raiola to try and resolve Paul Pogba's future at the football club. But, he's had a long-running transfer saga, since he rejoined. Don't forget Paul Pogba endured a very, very difficult time under the Jose Mourinho era. Don't forget as well, swap deals have been on the agenda, because in recent weeks, there has been talks of, like Aaron Ramsey coming to Man United as part of a swap deal of Pogba going to Juventus. De Ligt coming to Man United as part of a swap deal of Pogba going to Juventus. So swap deals have been on the agenda. But, we have got a few players on our agenda who could replace Paul Pogba at the football club. Some United fans have got different perceptions on Pogba. Some United fans will be determined to keep him. So, some United fans, would let him go. But obviously, if he was to sign a new long-term contract at the football club, Pogba, he would demand an increase in his wages. He wants to probably become the highest paid player, and he's one of the highest paid players now as it stands. I think he's on around 300 grand a week on his current contract as the player. But like I mentioned with Madrid, they recruited a good, 5 or 6 players in last summer and spent 200 or 300 odd million pounds. They're also looking to get rid of more players in Madrid. They want to get rid of James Rodriguez, of course. They also want to get rid of Bale. They want to get rid of Dani Ceballos. Luka Jovic, they're not satisfied with him since his arrival from Frankfurt last summer. They also want to get rid of Benzema. Well, Benzema's coming to an end of his footballing career anyway. But so Paul Pogba could stay at Manchester United at least for another season. Now, obviously, Fabrizio Romano, I think he came out a couple of weeks ago, and he actually, did say that Paul Pogba has got no intentions of buying out the remainder of his contract, because there was reports speculating saying that Pogba could buy the remainder of his contract for around £50 million. So he was going to take a FIFA transfer regulation. But I think also too, Solskjaer's had some talks with Paul Pogba as well regarding his future. To be quite honest with you. But I think, Paul Pogba, he's worth at least £100 million. Don't get me wrong, us getting rid of Pogba, it would help us with our rebuilding process. It would free up our wage bill and stuff like that. But, Alan Shearer, does believe that he will leave the football club. But people have got different perceptions on it. So I do believe anyway, that Paul Pogba is definitely not overrated. He is overrated, he was very, very good at Juventus, but he has been a disappointment at Manchester United. The good news is when, the football season does eventually resume, which is unknown at the moment. Obviously, before the Premier League had a meeting, obviously, there was talks about it resuming on the 6th of June, and then The Premier League said they wanted it to come to a conclusion on the 30th of June, so they had to play like 2, 3, maybe even 4 games per week. But obviously, in the recent meeting between, the Premier League clubs, there was no mention of, the season finishing on the 30th of June. There was obviously no debate on the issues with the players' pay cuts, or there was no mention of the transfer windows are out like that. I know that UEFA are planning, to play the Champions League final on the 29th of August, but that will interfere into next season. There's been talk saying if the season doesn't resume, there'll be 22 teams in the Premier League next season, around 4 or 5 teams relegated and stuff like that. But like I mentioned, if the season wasn't to resume, it'd be interesting to see how it would implicate the leagues. I think it still said Liverpool would still get the league if the season, was void. Leeds and West Brom would come up from the Championship and stuff like that. Obviously, like I said, there's around 57 Premier League players' contracts that are due to expire on the 30th of June, and then they are free to go on the 1st of July. But like I said, this virus is very, very bad news. But yeah, so when it's all over and that, he will be back in full training, will Paul Pogba, and so too will Marcus Rashford. Because like I mentioned on one of my other videos, I think, they've been a big miss for Manchester United throughout the course of this season. Definitely, have been a big miss. So yeah, definitely, Paul Pogba is overrated at Manchester United. I think another player that's overrated, and that is Nemanja Matic. He's definitely overrated, is Matic. Now, obviously, Matic is now into his 3rd season as a Manchester United player, and he has made over 100 appearances for the football club. I think one of the best goals Matic did score for the club, I think, was against Crystal Palace. Was that last season, when we come from behind to beat them 3-2, was 2-0 down. But obviously I've been known for criticising Matic a lot in recent years anyway, because he is very, very slow and he's very easily predictable. But my perception, recently, has been totally contrast, because I've credited him a lot recently, because I thought, like, before the football season that got suspended, Matic really rejuvenated himself, so I have got, to give him a lot of credit. Don't forget, we triggered that 1-year extension on his contract, was it around 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and I think he deserves it, reflecting on his good run of performances. We paid £40 million for him from Chelsea, so you can definitely, say that we did overpay for Matic. When he was at Chelsea, he wasn't so good with Chelsea. I think he did win, was it 1 Premier League title or 2 Premier League titles during his time with Chelsea, but I still believe, that Nemanja Matic is overrated. And Matic, is he 31 or is he 32 years of age now? I think he is in his early 30s now, is Nemanja Matic. But I've got to give him a lot of credit recently. But I still don't know if he is the long-term solution for Manchester United. Matic isn't our actual first-choice midfielder, is he? I think Matic is like our third-choice midfielder. But when we signed him under Mourinho, he wasn't our first-choice sign. He was like our third choice, wasn't he? To be quite honest. So, yeah. So he's definitely overrated. Another player, I'm also going to go into the recent history, the players that are overrated in our recent history. So I'm also, going to mention a few players, that have played for us in the past that don't play for us now. But yeah, so I think another player that's overrated, and that's Jesse Lingard. He still currently plays for us. Jesse Lingard has received a lot of criticism from a lot of Manchester United fans, including me, and that's reflected on his poor run of performances. And Lingard has lost the confidence of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And like I mentioned, reflecting on the number of years and, Lingard's status at the football club, he should be putting much more better performances out. I think it's since the arrival of Bruno Fernandes, Jesse Lingard has found game time very, very difficult. But when we play him, whether we put him in the number 10 or whether we put him on the right, because that's where he can play, we just can't seem to get the best out of Jesse Lingard. And I think he's one of the players that's expected to leave. He's expected to leave Manchester United when the transfer market does reopen, Jesse Lingard. I think he's made around 131 appearances in the Premier League for Man United, and I think he's managed around 17 goals. To be fair though, his actual record against the big teams isn't so bad. He's actually got a pretty good goal scoring record against Arsenal. He scored quite a few times against Arsenal. And the Athletic reported the other week saying that Arsenal were interested in him. Also, too, Everton have been in for him. So will Lingard continue playing his trade in the Premier League because he's well proven in the Premier League, or will he go to, Spain, or will he go to Italy? Because Madrid and Roma have also expressed an interest in the player. I think we value Jesse Lingard at around £30 million, and he's got exactly a year left, I think, now on his contract. Don't forget he's had a few loan spells. He had a loan spell with Leicester, Birmingham, Brighton and Derby, and I think he is now in his late 20s, is Jesse Lingard. But yeah, so he's definitely not overrated, and he hasn't registered 1 goal or 1 assist in the Premier League for over a year now, is it? Yeah, so that just proves how inconsistent, Jesse Lingard is. Now, I think another player, that was overrated, and that was Memphis Depay. Obviously, he's no longer here now. Don't forget, we did get Memphis Depay back under the Louis van Gaal era. Memphis Depay, enjoyed a very, very difficult time at Manchester United. I think he didn't he serve a year or 2 with us, if I can remember right. I think he had 2 years with us, didn't he, Memphis Depay, if I'm right. But yeah, he enjoyed a very, very difficult time with the club. Of course, we paid around £25 million in from PSV, because he actually, began his career with PSV, did Memphis Depay. I think, was it a while ago now, he was described as the best young player in the world by France Football. But obviously, reflecting how inconsistent Depay was, obviously, we let him go to Lyon. And I think since he's joined Lyon, he's been a revelation. I think his performances have been outstanding in France, so that's one admission I have got to make. But definitely Memphis Depay was overrated. And I've also heard some Manchester United fans as well, saying that, Ryan Giggs was an overrated player for us. Now, of course, Ryan Giggs, was an exceptional player for Man United. Obviously, he spent the entirety of his career with the club. Ryan Giggs, of course, endured 24 years at Manchester United. So he was at the club over 2 decades. I think, he's there's no other player that's made more appearances than him at Man United, because Ryan Giggs made over 900 appearances in all competitions. So he was at Man United around 24 years, was Ryan Giggs. Obviously, don't forget, when we sacked David Moyes, because David Moyes did enjoy around 8 or 9 months with a football club. Obviously, we should have never recommended David Moyes in the first place, and that was the only mistake Ferguson did make, was ever recommending David Moyes in. The main explanation why I recommended David Moyes in is because there was both Scottish, and obviously, Ferguson had a lot of time for him. But obviously, after Moyes' departure, Giggs came in as the interim manager for a very, very short period. I think he managed around 4 games, was it, for the football club, if you do remember rightly. So, yeah. So some people believe, Ryan Giggs was overrated. Some people believe Shinji Kagawa, was overrated. Didn't we get him under Louis van Gaal, if I can remember rightly? I think we did get Shinji Kagawa from Borussia Dortmund. So maybe some United fans will say Harry Maguire's overrated. I think he's enjoyed a fantastic start to his Man United career since his arrival from Leicester last summer. We did pay £80 million for Harry Maguire. Obviously, he's the second most expensive signing at the club and the most expensive centre-half in the world. But yeah, so that's, I think, the 5 players, that are the 5 overrated players, at Man United, and, the other players, that Man United have had. So I think Lingard's overrated, Pogba's overrated, Depay was definitely overrated. Like I said, some people believe Ryan Giggs was overrated, the Nemanja Matic, he's also overrated. So, let's just put that into the equation. But there again, there's also some underrated players at Manchester United. I'm going to have to make that admission. I think, personally, people may disagree with me on this. I actually, think Fred is underrated. Definitely in that. Because obviously, Fred's been at the football club since the summer of 2018. Fred's been at the football club. We got him under the Jose Mourinho era, and Fred has received a lot of criticism in the past, and I think I've criticised him, but, under the Jose Mourinho era, Fred never really got his opportunities. But, under Solskjaer, he has been given his opportunities, and I've got to make an admission, he has been a revelation as Fred. I don't think he's world class as yet. I thought he was exceptional, when he was at Ukraine, but, we did pay £50 million for the player, so I've got to say, he is underrated. Maybe you can say when we had Angel Di Maria under Louis van Gaal, maybe you can say he was underrated as well, and maybe you can say we made a mistake getting rid of Di Maria, because I thought he enjoyed a fantastic start to his Manchester United career when he came in. Did very, very well, did Di Maria. I think we paid, was it around 60 odd million pounds for the player. So you can maybe, say he was underrated. Maybe, Victor Lindelof's underrated. Maybe Lindelof doesn't get enough credit, for how good he's been. Recently. He was good last season. He's also been good throughout the course of this season. He's had a few bad games, but prior to that, he's done very, very well. Lindelof struggled for that consistency in his first season. Didn't really settle in. I've got to say as well, Eric Bailly. I've got to say he's underrated. Is Eric Bailly. My only element of concern about Eric Bailly is that he's very, very injury prone, but I still think he's a very, very good centre half. And me personally, I think he's too good to be a backup centre half, but he is one of our backup centre halves at the moment. And all of that. So that's the latest on that. So they're the players that I said earlier on, the ones that are overrated, and I've just given my opinions on the players that I think are underrated at Manchester United and that have been underrated. So that's the latest news on that. So you did obviously see on my video that I did earlier on today. I obviously give you the big news on Jadon Sancho, because these huge developments on Jadon Sancho. It's it came out from the Sun. Well, I read it firstly in the Sun, and now obviously it's in more media outlets, saying that Jadon Sancho has agreed a transfer to Manchester United, and everything has been agreed. Almost every detail of Jadon Sancho's transfer to Man United has been agreed, apart from the fee. Manchester United have not yet come to an agreement on a fee with Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund have already come out and said, they want at least £100 million. Borussia Dortmund do remain ruthless on their valuation, so they're not willing to let Sancho go on the cheap, even reflecting on this coronavirus pandemic. So it has basically said in the media that the length of Jadon Sancho's contract, his salary, his bonuses and his buyout clause have all been agreed. We just basically now need to come to an agreement on a fee with Borussia Dortmund. I think we are willing to meet Borussia Dortmund's valuation. I think we're willing to pay the 100 or 120 million pounds that they want. If we do, obviously it's going to make him a record signing in the Premier League, and it's going to make him our most expensive signing. And also it's going to make him the most expensive British player in history. It has been revealed though that we've been working on Jadon Sancho's contract for quite some time. We've also been in negotiations with his agent for quite some time, because Jadon Sancho has revealed that his preference is a move to Old Trafford. And I think we've had secret negotiations, like it does mention in the Sun and a few other media outlets. We've been in secret negotiations for months. But Sancho wants to come to Manchester United, and I'll give you the couple of beneficial things, about Man United recommending Jadon Sancho in, is that, he's well proven in the Premier League. He's played in Manchester before. Don't forget Jadon Sancho endured 2 years with Manchester City, but obviously, he didn't get many first team opportunities at Man City, and this is the main explanation why he left City to join Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, before he was at City, he began his career at Watford, and he was at Watford for several years. And I think another beneficial thing about recommending him in is that he's got a really, really good friendship with Marcus Rashford. And don't forget, Rashford's been talking a lot about Sancho recently, and he revealed that he wants Jadon Sancho at Manchester United next season. Because I think, Jadon Sancho will go well alongside, Rashford and Anthony Martial in our attacking line. Jadon Sancho now is into his 3rd season at Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, I think since his arrival in Germany, he's been a revelation. There again, he was dropped in quite a lot of games earlier on in the season. Yes, he was. And Jadon Sancho, I think he's got 2 years remaining on his contract with Dortmund. He's under contract with them until 2022. But Dortmund will make a huge profit on the player, because don't forget, Dortmund paid only 7 or was it £8 million for him from Man City. But Sancho coming back to the Premier League will be, very, very beneficial for his career. And I think Dortmund have come to accept the fact now that he does want to move on. Sky in Germany confirmed that, by the way, back in February. Now, obviously, there was reports coming out the other day, like he updated you, and it actually, said that Borussia Dortmund are willing to offer Jadon Sancho a new contract worth around £165,000 a week, if he is to turn down and move to the Premier League. So they're willing to give him a pay rise, and they're willing to make him their second highest paid player, because Borussia Dortmund's highest paid player at the moment is Marco Reus. But I think Jadon Sancho, of course, wants to leave Dortmund. Obviously, it revealed last year that Dortmund wanted Mason Greenwood as part of a swap deal of Dortmund selling Sancho, but we've got no intentions of doing any business with Mason Greenwood. And maybe we need Champions League football for next season, to convince Sancho to come, because there was reports coming out saying that we could miss out on Sancho if we fail to qualify for the Champions League. Also, too, Jamie Redknapp's give his verdict on the Sancho saga, and he believes if Man United sign him, it will be a brilliant move, because he believes he'll suit the club. He believes he'll do very, very well at the football club, does Jamie Redknapp. So yeah, looking very, very imminent, that we are going to sign Jadon Sancho when the transfer window does reopen. So it's looking very, very imminent indeed. But yeah, that'll be very, very good if we can get Jadon Sancho on the board. Obviously, Dortmund have got a few players on their agenda who could replace him. Obviously, Jude Bellingham and Ferran Torres from Valencia. But yeah, Chelsea, by the way, have been in for Sancho. By the way, Sancho recently revealed that he is a lifelong Chelsea supporter. So I said before, didn't I? There could be still a possibility, chance that he could go to Chelsea. Real Madrid are no longer in for Sancho now. So yeah. Obviously, I give you the news regarding Harry Kane, didn't I, this morning. There's been a lot of positivity coming out regarding Harry Kane. Like I said, maybe in the foreseeable future, Manchester United could sign him. That's if he's still at Tottenham. But I'm just very, very sceptical that Man United will sign him when the transfer window reopens, because I'm very, very sceptical that we'll pay up to £200 million for Kane. Tottenham remain ruthless over their valuation. Daniel Levy said Tottenham will only accept £200 million for him, which is a world record fee. And Tottenham, by the way, don't forget, are looking to ease their financial worries, because they are still paying for their £1 billion stadium. They're still paying for the £1 billion stadium. Because obviously they owe around 630 odd million on the stadium loan. They owe around 83 million in transfer fees. So this is why they want £200 million for Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane does want to leave Tottenham, because he made that admission last month, and he did, fuel quite a lot of speculation. But I'm very, very sceptical that we'll sign Sancho and Harry Kane, because if we were to sign Sancho and Harry Kane, that would cost us over £300 million for two players. So yeah, obviously early on today as well, I gave you the news, didn't I, on Kai Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen. Now we've identified him as a summer transfer target. Grealish, reportedly now Man United are no longer in for him. So there is, so many players on our agenda. But like I mentioned, Solskjaer has revealed his plans, for when the transfer market does reopen. He still wants to continue the policy of recruiting young players to Manchester United, like he did do last summer. Obviously, he wants to make around 4 signings when the transfer market does reopen, because he believes we need around 4 signings to become title contenders next season. And he recently insisted, we will exploit the transfer market when it does reopen. But I've got to make an admission, we have really, really improved in the transfer market under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Solskjaer's been here over a year now. He's been here about 16 months. He's enjoyed 3 transfer windows at the football club, and he has spent around £220 million on 5 players. We don't only expect to see more incomings when the transfer window reopens. We also expect to see more players leave the football club, like I mentioned. The Daily Express reported out today saying, we could get rid of, the players, that are still here from the Ferguson era. And, that's obviously, Chris Smalling. He's obviously on loan at Rome at the moment, but we'll look to get rid of Smalling on a permanent transfer. Obviously, Jones. I think, we'll definitely get rid of him. He's been here since the Ferguson era. There's been talk saying David De Gea could leave. He'll probably leave in the foreseeable future. I don't think De Gea will leave when the transfer market does reopen, because there has been talks, by the way, of actually, Dean Henderson becoming our number 1 goalkeeper when he returns from his loan spell with Sheffield United. Like I said, Lingard and Pereira, they'll go. I think, you know, the club have also got to try and get rid of Alexis Sanchez on a permanent transfer, but obviously he said the other week that he's refusing to take a pay cut, so maybe, you know, Sanchez will be coming back and he will see out the remainder of his contract. But I've got to credit Solskjaer because he has got rid of a lot of the deadwood since he's come in. You know, I think we've seen around 9 players leave since he came in and that. But yeah. So that's everything to update you with today on this video, guys. I will be doing a video later on tonight. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thanks for watching.